What's up, everybody? This is your boy DC Black coming to you yet again with another movie review, and I am reviewing this movie over here. So let's get into this. Dune. Dune is actually a remake of the 1987 film, if I am getting my year correct. This was directed by Denis Villeneuve and starred a litany of people. We're gonna just dive right into this. And this is a movie that honestly, for me, it's hard for me to review this because okay, little backstory. When Dune originally came out, it was like a 4-hour movie that was in theaters where they had to have an intermission. They showed half of it, had an intermission, then showed the rest. The intermission was about an hour, then they showed the rest. And it won a ton of awards. This movie is problematic for me because it's only part of the story. It's not the whole thing. And that's where I kind of struggle because this is only part of the movie, and this movie is nothing. And I say this so bluntly, nothing but setup. Like literally from beginning to end, nothing but setup. And it's frustrating because visually this movie actually looks pretty good. It looks pretty freaking good, especially when it gets to the very little scenes where there is actually a combat. This movie is visually great, but this movie is so much. This movie's almost 3 hours long, and it's nothing but setup. Like I'm gonna tell you right now. This may be this is a mild spoiler. But I want to try to. I'm gonna keep this spoiler free here on after. A lot of the scenes that were in the trailer were nothing but dream sequences. Nothing but dream sequences, and it was and it's crazy because you look at this movie, it's just like okay. This movie maybe has about 30 minutes of dream sequences. It's like I'll say 20 minutes to be generous. It's like what? Like why is this movie just so much setup? And it was specifically done for setup because it was to build to something because this movie's probably going to have two other parts to it. And it's like, man, I am so frustrated with movies that are nothing but setup. The whole film is nothing but setup. It's literally saying, hey, I'm promising you that we're going to get to some cool stuff, but it ain't going to be here. And it's like, why do that though? Like, why make a whole film that is, and I get it. And I get it. You have to have world building because what you don't want is just to fling a bunch of stuff at people and people are like, okay, what? Like, what is this? I really feel like Dune would have worked story wise if it was a series because this movie plays really. What I would kind of compare this movie to is like the first season of Game of Thrones. For you guys that watch Game of Thrones, you know how the first season went. The first 90% of the first season was nothing but setup. It was establishing characters, just telling you who characters were, uh, establishing the world, where certain locations were, certain characters, what kind, maybe teasing a little bit of like, okay, this person don't like this person, and there's a very big, very important reason why they don't like each other. There was hints at things like Lyanna Stark supposedly being with Rob Stark, and I mean not Rob Stark, King Baratheon. It was Robert Baratheon. There was a certain things that was hinted. You get what I'm saying? There were certain things that was hinted, and this movie does. But once you know Ned and the family get the Ned at first, but then the rest of the family get to King's Landing, stuff start popping off because you start seeing, things, you start noticing certain things that were building up before built up, and then you get the shock that the character that you have been following this entire time, where you were like, basically this person was the main character, they die, and you like, and it leaves you like a shock of like, oh shoot, like this is crazy, like this is different, and it sets the tone of the show of like, hey, you don't know what's gonna happen. Dune does the same thing. It's like, but except the stuff that the big, comparing it to it, but nothing happens on the level of like a Ned Stark's death. Spoilers for those who have not seen Game of Thrones, but the show's been on for 10 years. Go watch it on HBO Max. What are you doing? Uh, but nothing of that gravity really happens for real. Like certain things you kind of expect, you can kind of see the forest from the tree for the trees. Like this is probably going to happen. It was it was so long, and it was just so boring at certain points where you're like, okay, what? They hitting me with so much exposition, and I'm like, okay, I'm really trying to focus. But give me something in between this exposition that I can chew on. And you got nothing. Also, we kind of still standing in the vein of this story. I have a huge problem with how, and this is kind of going to start diving in a little bit to the characters. I have a huge problem with how this movie set up the characters. And what I mean by that is we were given okay. So to not spoil it, I'm just gonna say this. We were given that white savior complex, and I don't like it at all. Like I really feel like they should have done something. The director should have done something about that, because especially in 2021, that's a huge problem. And then for all the for the people that are nomads to be, where you look at them, they are from a certain part of the world, but everybody in the aristocracy are all mostly white. It's problematic for me. Like that is a huge problem. Going to the characters, if you look at this poster, I'm gonna tell you right now, half of these characters are dead. I'm not going to tell you who, but half of those characters are dead, which to me is still another problem. It's like you showed me basically these four characters. Half of them are dead, and then one of the ones that are still alive, you only see her for like 5 minutes. You see her for maybe 5 minutes at most. What was the point of showing her being in this film in the first place? She's on every poster, she's throughout the trailers, and you only see her 5 minutes. And in the scenes that you see her, half of that 5 minutes was dream sequences. It's like this is frustrating. I want to like this movie so bad, but this movie has serious problems with its characters. It's like I don't specifically with Zendaya's character. Like she's not even in. That's the character who I'm talking about. Her character is not even in the movie for real. Uh I don't even feel like she should even be on the poster of this for the movie at all. She should not be on the poster. And it's frustrating because I want to like this movie, but there are some glaring issues with this movie. In the title, and then also there's also a point in this movie where they want one of the characters to look at the main character, says something, but it's really metaphoric, because it's almost like instead of talking to the main characters, and Zendaya's character is saying this line is talking to the audience, and it's like what? So I don't understand what is actually happening here. Um, I don't understand what was going on with this movie. This movie should have been a series, and like I said, I really want to like this movie, but it's just hard to like it. It's really hard to like this movie, because, like I said, visually this movie's amazing. It's amazing, if the director's able to follow through with the promises that this first movie make, the second one especially is going to be amazing. That movie is going to be visually and story wise spec freaking tacular. But this movie, Dune, the first one, cannot stand up on its own. It cannot stand up on its own.